excited to be here. I phoned my mom this morning and I said, I got to share a stage with a rock star. And she asked me who it was, and I said it was Gina. Today I want to talk about kind of a case study about what we do at ATB Financial and really bring home some of the things that Gina and Jim have talked about. So I want to open up with a quote. Seems to be the theme this morning. And it's a quote that you've all said. Gina even said it. We need to think about the branch of the future. Literally every person in this room has said that. Or somebody in your organization has said that. And when you're thinking about what the branch of the future is, it's always a fleeting thought, as Gina alluded to. Whenever I hear this quote, I think of that famous speech by Matthew McConaughey, where he's giving his speech about who he wants to be in the future. And when he gets to that person, he doesn't want to be that person anymore. He wants to be that next person. And so we're going to continue chasing whatever the branch of the future is. And if we don't stop talking about the branch of the future, it's going to be something we talk about forever. So like any good millennial, I decided that I wanted to ask ChatGPT, what does the bank of the future look like? Put in my prompt, and this is what I received. ChatGPT's got a way to go, I think, still, maybe a little too futuristic. This might be what the branch of the future in 10 years looks like if Elon Musk decides to get into banking. But I don't think this is probably where most of us are going. In order for you to know where you're going, I'm going to jump on that GPS analogy that Jim used this morning. You actually have to know where you're starting. The nice thing about GPS is when you put it in your phone, GPS already tells you where you are. But you don't necessarily always know where you're starting. Maybe you don't know, who you are and what is your identity as a bank. So when you are moving forward with your designs and implementing the next steps for your future retail spaces, you have to design for the future, and you need to know who you are today. One of the things that we did at ATB was we really wanted to know who we were, and obviously we all know the best way to figure out who we are is just compare ourselves to each other. And when we looked at our J.D. Power scores, the thing that we noticed was that we're really good at talking to people. We're really good with our people, and our people are essentially what makes us at ATB, ATB. We really suck at digital, though. And, some of our other northern friends, RBC, TD, they're here. We're never going to outspend those guys on digital. They probably spend as much on digital as we probably have on assets under management. It's one of those things where we just can't compete on that front. So we have to figure out, how do we compete? Now, something about ATB Financial that you might not know. So we are a regional bank out of Alberta. And we primarily work in Alberta. We have a couple of wealth locations outside of the province, but we're also wholly owned by the government of Alberta. We have an arm's length board of directors. So, it's completely separated. But one of our mandates is to provide banking services for everybody in Alberta. And in order to do that, many decades ago, we tried to figure out how do we get ourselves in communities and places where we can actually service people that are underbanked. We have about 270 points of presence that's divided between the small ABM fleet, about 155 branches that we lease or own, and we also have an agency model, which is almost like I'll call it a mini franchise model, and they don't necessarily do all of the same things that our branches do, but they do a good chunk of it. And so we realized that our people were really important, but we also realized that we are in about 85 communities in Alberta that no other banks are in. And because of that, we've heard today that when you are providing services, if you're the only one, we saw the data literally 5 slides ago from Gina, if people recognize that you're there, or there is no one else available, that it gives you the opportunities. Now, not all of us are going to have an opportunity to expand to lots of different markets, but we have to find ways to do that in different ways. The other thing that we know about ourselves is that we have a really good culture. We actually just won number 4 in Canada for best cultures of companies over 1,000 people. TD came in 10th, and it's always an honor to be on that list. We've been on that list 9 years in a row for the top 50. And what that means to us is that our team members and the culture within our organization are very strong. And so this sort of defined who we were. We know that our people are strong, and we know that our culture is really strong. So how do we translate that into the physical space? We realized that we were doing a really good job. We have some award-winning spaces in our corporate offices, but we weren't translating enough of that over to our retail spaces. And so learning from our corporate designs and enabling branch design is really important for today's working environment. We all know that remote work and hybrid work has become essentially the norm, and some of us have mandates of bringing people back to the office, other of us in the room don't, and there's some range in between there. One of the things that became very clear during COVID, especially with corporate team members, is that the average distance that they live from their corporate headquarters or the corporate office that they work from or were homed in, as COVID lasted for several years, people started to move further and further away. And so what we actually did when we were planning out our branch network locations of prioritization is we actually took the postal code data, so for Canadians, or zip code data for our folks here, of where our team members were living before COVID and where our team members were living today. And we actually started to see that people were shifting away from those offices, but we wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity to be able to go in as a value proposition, one, for them, but also so that we could help cross-pollinate our corporate team members with our branch team members. And so we started to come up with a hub and spoke model where we designed advisory hubs that became essentially centers where we could do corporate banking services and actually have corporate team members that are non-client facing as well as client facing. And so we use some of our working guidelines and principles from our corporate side and try to translate them forward. Some of those, we're trying to make sure that we're using our resources efficiently. We want to make sure that we empower the culture of equity and inclusion, but also we're ensuring flexibility, agility, and variety as foundational. The challenge is that we don't necessarily always recognize that those front-facing team members have very much different problems than our corporate team members. And I'm going to use a theory from criminology for a second. If you've ever heard of the broken window theory, the broken window theory is that if there's crime present in a neighborhood, the crime will kind of continue. And you might see, broken window starts, and then maybe more broken windows and boarded up stores and graffiti, things like that. I apply that to how we treat our branches. We saw that more than half of the branches in our data set earlier are still in that traditional old front. Show of hands, who has branches in their network that haven't been renovated since 2007? The whole room. Does anybody know what happened in 2007? Well, not the financial stuff, but I mean, the iPhone was launched. You have locations that haven't been touched or renovated since before smartphones. There's been a lot of things that have changed since then, and if we haven't changed to keep up, we're failing our clients and we're failing our team members. So, one of the things that we do in our advisory hubs is we have people first. You walk in and you walk right up to an ambassador. The front door is just to the left of this photo. As soon as you walk in, an ambassador greets you and asks you what they can help you with. You might be there on an appointment. You might be there just to go do a simple transaction. Or you might be there and you say what you're trying to do, but you don't realize some of the options that you have to do those things. This person is your first point of contact. We've all been there when you're on the phone and your customer service robot is not doing the thing you want, you're jamming 0, and you're like, come on, please, I just want to talk to a person. Talking to a person is the first thing that happens here. Now, one thing I'm just going to point out, if you look at the top of this photo, you'll see a projector and a camera. I'll come back to that in a moment. So I said it was people first, but we actually offer coffee and community spaces for all of our clients. We have a lot of locations throughout Alberta that we have our clients, they come in, and sometimes they actually don't do any banking transactions or banking at all. They come in, they just come get some free coffee, they sit down for a while, we start to get to know their names. And what's interesting is, as you're trying to engage with all of these different clients, we also have to find ways to be flexible. So the space with all the furniture is actually highly modifiable. The meeting rooms that are right beside it have operable walls so that we can expand it open and lower the projector, add the camera services, and we can turn it into a meeting space. We can turn it into a presentation space. We've had board meetings here for our bank. We've done lots of different things in order to enable it, but we heard from Gina at the very end, if you're not engaging the community, then you're just going to have this empty space. And so that's a huge part of how we're starting to enable this market within Red Deer, Alberta. Transactions are second, but one of the things that we are trying to make sure is that we engage our local communities beyond just having a space for them. The art that you actually see behind our teller line, which we only have 2 of in this location, is actually sourced from a local Indigenous artist. And so in Alberta, we have different treaty lands that we live on, and because of that, we engage our Indigenous partners to help showcase them, but as well bring a tie back to the overall community itself. And this is actually some art that reflects Red Deer as a whole. We also try to do actual elevation. So when you're moving through your advisory journey, we're not necessarily just having our clients come in, do a transaction, grab coffee. We're asking them along the entire way and making sure that we have touch points with them continuously to understand what their needs are. A student that has a student loan might eventually turn into a small business loan. We have 680,000 clients in Alberta, which is about 1/6 of the population. And we also bank 1/3 of all the small businesses. And because of that transition from maybe a client with a small loan, car loan, student loan, something like that, as they transitioned into their work life, they might need a business loan, et cetera. We actually have this physical elevation. We don't have this in all of our locations like this, but you actually walk up the stairs to go to your advice and your wealth meetings and appointments. And we try to make sure that we are bringing forward physical artifacts like a moss wall, a green wall, that actually makes people as they walk by feel like there's something growing here, and there's sort of a metaphor there. Making sure that our team members feel like the spaces that they're delivering services in seamlessly, because we have team members that will come to this hub. This is not their main place of business. What they end up doing is making sure that they can seamlessly connect with technology, seamlessly connect with the space, and have their appointments quickly without having to be fully orientated to the location. And then we also have periods of time, because of the remote work nature of what we do at ATB and our team members. We actually have neighborhood hubs of corporate spaces so that team members can come and book several offices, book out this entire neighborhood, because their team might be from 4 different cities within Alberta, and if they want to come in together, we actually have a space for them to join as one single team in a physical space. It becomes really important that as we are elevating our spaces for our team members, that the client journey becomes a lot more seamless. And so we have to make sure that in places like these hubs, we elevate the overall look and feel for our team members and our clients, because at any point a client could be walking right past and going to one of the offices in the back. And so for us, we try to make sure that it's seamless the entire way. We also have secondary meeting rooms and boardrooms that people book, but these boardrooms also have the ability to be engaged by our different clients, as well as our team members coming in from out of town. But we make sure that we have a flexibility for size, because as we're thinking about our physical footprints, our footprints need to be able to be future-proofed. And so do we want this meeting room to always be a 12-person meeting room? Maybe we want it to be an 8-person and a 4-person. And every one of our spaces is technology-enabled, so that if we have team members that are going to take meetings with clients that aren't in their space, but maybe in a different city, they can easily connect to any one of our rooms within a matter of seconds. And finally, variety. The variety of the spaces is really important, but we also need to be able to have those quiet moments. Not every banking transaction or banking conversation is one you want to have in an open space. We often see that designs have become a lot more open, but there's challenges there. If I'm about to talk to you about how I'm going to miss a credit card payment, or I'm about to talk to you about how I might be late on a mortgage payment, I don't think I would prefer to do it beside Jim, who's having a coffee. So having different spaces readily available of different sizes, of different nature, ones that actually make it feel intimate and like I can have a comfortable conversation, is really important. Getting rid of that us and them mentality. We're sitting around a small round table together. You're not sitting on the other side of a desk for me where you feel like you've got this sort of shame potentially. So that's kind of our case study of all the things that you've heard today from Jim and Gina, and I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.